And good afternoon once again. I'm California Attorney General Rob Bonta. I'm joined today by my colleagues, New York Attorney General Letitia James, Hawaii Attorney General Ann Lopez, New Jersey Attorney General Jennifer Davenport, and Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul. I'm always grateful to work together and team up with this amazing set of attorneys general from across the country. We are here today to respond to the latest political stunt from the White House aimed to divide our nation and pit our parties and states against one another on an issue that isn't and shouldn't be partisan: fraud. Today, Vice President Vance convened a roundtable discussion on Medicaid fraud in D.C. And while he invited our Republican counterparts to join him more than a week ago, Democratic attorneys general were only invited late Friday afternoon, less than one business day's notice. The short notice we were given sends a clear message that we were either an afterthought or we weren't really welcome. Either way, it doesn't match the spirit of collaboration that has long defined our state and federal partnerships to address fraud. We declined the clearly disingenuous last-minute invitation. We won't be used as props in Vance's political performance. I watched the opening remarks at the roundtable today and was surprised to hear Vice President Vance and FTC Chair Ferguson wax on about bipartisanship when they put such little effort into including Democratic AGs in the conversation. In fact, the chief of California DOJ's Division of Medi-Cal Fraud and Elder Abuse, our Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, upended her schedule and gave up her holiday weekend to make the last-minute trip out to D.C. to attend the roundtable alongside leadership from Republican AG's offices. When she arrived, she was literally turned away at the door. Doesn't exactly scream bipartisanship. Despite the fact that only Democratic-led states were name-checked during the roundtable's opening remarks, the reality is fraud affects all states. It threatens public services that vulnerable families rely on and erodes public trust in our government, which is why Democratic AGs are going after fraud with the full force of our offices. While the president and Dr. Oz spread lies and staged stunts to stoke the flames of distrust, the truth is Democratic AGs have recovered billions of taxpayer dollars, secured criminal convictions, and implemented reforms to strengthen the security of our programs. Here at California DOJ, we have 4 teams specifically dedicated to eradicating fraud: the Division of Medi-Cal Fraud and Elder Abuse, the Corporate Fraud Section, the Tax Recovery in Underground Economy Task Force, and the Recycle Fraud Team. These teams, in collaboration with our Division of Law Enforcement and others across DOJ, have recovered more than $2.8 billion with a B dollars in fraud against the state in the last 10 years. We've conducted more than 2,300 criminal investigations related to fraud, filed charges against 958 individuals for fraud-related crimes, and conducted 1,121 civil investigations with multiple filed cases. DOJ's Division of Medi-Cal Fraud and Elder Abuse, an entire division devoted to snuffing out healthcare fraud against California's Medicaid program, has secured over $1.2 billion from Medi-Cal fraud cases since I took office in 2021. Specifically looking at hospice fraud, we've undertaken 294 hospice-related investigations, filed 109 hospice-related criminal cases, and secured 51 hospice-related convictions. In fact, last month, we took down a hospice fraud ring in Los Angeles County, responsible for defrauding Medi-Cal and the state of California of $267 million. We arrested 5 individuals and filed felony criminal charges against 21 suspects. It's the largest hospice fraud bust in state history, and my office handled it soup to nuts, from investigation to takedown to prosecution. While President Trump, Vice President Vance, and Dr. Oz seem to have just woken up to the reality of healthcare fraud, the truth is our team of agents, investigators, and prosecutors have been on the ground, in the field, and arresting and prosecuting fraudsters who see our public program as their piggy banks for years. We're not here to claim our states are immune to fraud. Just like Texas, Florida, Ohio, and every other state, our states have been preyed upon by fraudsters and scam artists looking to make an easy buck off taxpayers' backs. The problem is that instead of working with us to actually root out fraud and protect taxpayers, Trump, Vance, and Oz are politicizing the problem and gaslighting the American people. This is not a political game. This is about safeguarding public funds, protecting the public trust, serving our residents, and delivering programs that dying and vulnerable Californians need. While the Trump administration exploits healthcare fraud to score political points, our teams will be here, sleeves rolled up, heads down, actually eradicating fraud and holding anyone who targets our state systems accountable to the fullest extent of the law. If the federal government ever decides to quit playing games, we'll be here, ready and willing to join forces to tackle fraud. Today's political performance in D.C. doesn't give me much hope. That day will come soon. Now, please allow me to turn the microphone over to my colleague and a fearless fighter of fraud, New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Good afternoon. And thank you to Attorney General Bonta and to all of my fellow Democratic Attorneys Generals for joining us here today. We are here because stopping fraud and abuse is not a political issue. It is really foundational to our work as Attorneys General. And like California, we received the invitation on Friday evening. My Deputy Attorney General went to Washington, D.C. today, and unfortunately was not allowed access to the meeting. In New York, my office's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit is recognized as a national leader. From 2019 to 2025, we recovered more than $627 million by stopping Medicaid fraud. And in March, this administration's own Department of Health and Human Services reported that 4 Medicaid fraud units from New York, Colorado, Georgia, and Indiana accounted for half of the total civil recoveries in fiscal year 2025. Those are tangible results. We have also led the way in taking on major nursing home operators that siphon funds out of facilities while cutting staff, leaving residents in horrific conditions, residents who were suffering abuse and neglect. Vulnerable nursing home residents suffered mistreatment for years until my office took action, and their family members all across this state have contacted my office and me personally to say thank you. We have secured settlements with nursing homes from Long Island to Buffalo that will provide tens of millions of dollars to improve resident care. We also worked on legislation with our colleagues in Albany to increase staffing ratios and to improve conditions at nursing homes all across the state of New York. We have installed independent health care and financial monitors to ensure the fraud stops. Our offices have a strong record of working with our Republican counterparts and federal administrations to stop fraud in all its forms. Real collaboration between states and the federal government is critical to addressing fraud and waste. But that partnership requires proper notice, sincere engagement, and a genuine opportunity for productive discussion. But we are very concerned that Medicaid cuts weaken the very oversight that helps prevent fraud. In addition, the fact that the federal government has fired the HHS Inspector General and has engaged in efforts to dismantle HHS does not help in any way to prevent fraud and abuse. In addition to that, the cuts to California and Minnesota to the tune of $1.5 million does not benefit anyone, and particularly those vulnerable individuals who are wasting away in nursing homes without our action. We cannot fight Medicaid fraud with one arm tied behind our backs, while at the same time the federal government is cutting Medicaid and weakening oversight and lowering standards. We are ready to meet with our federal partners because we will keep protecting taxpayers and we will keep defending vulnerable people and we will hold fraudsters accountable. And we are more than willing to discuss these issues and more with the Vice President and the task force in our ongoing effort to combat fraud and waste. And all of us have opened up our books to the annual audits that we are subjected to that all of us have passed. And so I look forward to this ongoing discussion and in our effort to address this critical issue, and most importantly, those individuals right now who are in nursing homes who need our action. And every attorney general who is on this call has been on the ground to do just that. And now it's my honor and my privilege to introduce to you the Attorney General of Hawaii, Ann Lopez.
Thank you, Attorney General James, and thank you to California AG Bonta for hosting us today. 2 weeks ago, Vice President Vance explicitly called out Hawaii as not caring about fraud in our state, and nothing could be further from the truth. We take the investigation, prosecution, and recovery of fraudulently obtained state and federal funds seriously. And these investigations occur across the spectrum of state government, from consumer protection to procurement and all of the public benefit programs, including Medicaid. In the past few years, the Hawaii Department of the Attorney General has brought criminal charges against approximately 18 individuals for committing theft and fraud in both public and private sectors, and exploitation and abuse of public trust. In this one division, the alleged losses in these cases of theft and fraud total well over $1 million. Hawaii's Mafuku investigates allegations of Medicaid fraud, patient abuse, patient neglect, and financial exploitation connected to the Medicaid system. Since 2021, Mafuku has secured or helped secure over $14 million in judgments, settlements, and recoveries in 25 separate cases. These cases include civil recoveries from fraudulent billing practices as well as criminal investigations. Earlier this year, Mafuku filed criminal charges against 2 individuals, one of whom has already pleaded no contest as charged. These are not symbolic efforts. These investigations are producing real results for the people of Hawaii. But Mafuku's work does not happen in isolation. Mafuku works closely with federal and state partners, including the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Office of the Inspector General, the Mafuku Oversight Division, and Hawaii's Department of MedQuest. As Medicaid fraud becomes increasingly sophisticated, fraud investigations require collaboration, expertise, and sustained investment. The relationships among federal, state, and county agencies and Hawaii's managed care organizations are strong, but can always be stronger. Politics has to be removed from the process. Our engagement has to be serious and combined. The combined effort can sustain all of our programs in ensuring that we get the recoveries that we need to get. Following Mafuku's regularly scheduled on-site review earlier this year by the OIG, Mafuku has been actively closing old cases and improving our coordination with partners, accelerating recruitment of investigators, and developing more effective investigative tools. This is ongoing work, and we are committed to continuing to improve and expand our capabilities. I want the public to understand that fraud enforcement is not about headlines or politics. It's about protecting public funds, preserving the integrity of essential healthcare programs, and ensuring accountability when people attempt to exploit systems designed to help vulnerable residents. We welcome a constructive partnership and serious discussion about improving fraud prevention and enforcement. At the end of the day, our commitment remains the same: protecting the integrity of the Medicaid program and protecting taxpayer resources. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn the mic over to New Jersey Attorney General Jennifer Davenport.
Thank you, General Lopez. As New Jersey's Attorney General, I am focused every day on standing up for the 9.5 million people who call New Jersey home. One of my office's most important roles is fighting fraud and predatory practices that take advantage of hardworking New Jerseyans. That includes fraud in government programs. My office works every day to protect New Jersey residents and taxpayers and their dollars from fraud. We protect the integrity of Medicaid and other government programs, crucial parts of the social safety net that our residents rely on. Millions of hardworking New Jerseyans depend on the critical services provided through programs like Medicaid, and we're committed to protecting those programs, even while Congress and the federal administration have taken a sledgehammer to key parts of the safety net. We are also committed to rooting out consumer fraud in the private sector that harms New Jerseyans and makes everyday essentials increasingly unaffordable. My office coordinates with other state agencies in seeking to prevent fraud from occurring in government programs. Because of those efforts and our close partnership with federal prosecutors under prior Democratic and Republican administrations, we have successfully rooted out fraud and saved taxpayers tens of millions of dollars in New Jersey. I want to make clear that we will welcome opportunities to collaborate with anyone who will work together with us in our shared mission to protect taxpayers and to make life more affordable for all New Jerseyans. What I have no patience for is any attempt to politicize this issue or make politically motivated attempts to tear down these critical programs. Like others, New Jersey's chief counsel was also denied entry today. Eliminating fraud cannot be a partisan effort or politically motivated. But I'm concerned that this federal administration is using allegations of fraud in an attempt to freeze or cut funding to these critical programs. The Trump administration is harming our residents by cutting funding to crucial social safety net programs, schools, law enforcement, and consumer protection. And while the Trump administration claims that it is now prioritizing fighting fraud, it has gutted many of the federal agencies that are meant to root out fraud. We welcome a genuine partnership with anyone who stands willing to work with us on combating fraud and protecting the social safety net that so many New Jerseyans depend on. As the vice president himself said, fraud has many victims, most specifically the people who need these important services and programs and the American taxpayers. My message is simple. We must continue to do all we can to combat fraud, but we must also do so in a way that doesn't undermine the very programs that New Jerseyans count on. It's now my pleasure to turn the floor over to my colleague from Wisconsin, Attorney General Josh Kaul.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who's joining us here today. I want to say a few words about a recent investigation that our office was part of. Wisconsin had benefit fraud going on with a program that was a Medicaid benefit program that was meant to help at-risk pregnant women and women with young children. It's called the Prenatal Care Coordination Program. Those are critically important benefits. They help women who are soon-to-be mothers or are mothers, and they help kids get a leg up when they are starting life out. Defrauding a program like this is an outrage. And so when there was fraud alleged, our office was involved in investigating this kind of conduct. We were involved in working with federal partners, the FBI. And ultimately, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Wisconsin brought charges. Just this calendar year, one person was sentenced to 5 years in prison based on her conduct in connection with this. Another person was sentenced to over 9 years in prison. And a third was sentenced to 121 months, 10 years and 1 day. That's because our courts and our system take defrauding our system very seriously, and we are committed to holding accountable those who violate our anti-fraud laws. We're going to keep doing that work, and we are proud of that work. It needs to be done collaboratively between states and the federal government, as it has been for a long time. What we cannot afford is what we are seeing from the Trump administration, and that is to have a presidential administration that is talking out of both sides of its mouth when it comes to this issue. You cannot have a president pardoning fraudster after fraudster and then turn around and say he takes fraud seriously. That sends the wrong message. When you cut IGs, and so you're getting rid of inspectors general who root out fraud, that sends the wrong message when it comes to fighting fraud. Today, the vice president's office turned away some people from AG's offices who are experts on these topics. You don't solve this problem by shutting out voices who know how you can fight this problem. What we hope the vice president does is that he comes to offices like ours around the country. He listens not just to people who have a certain title or rank, but to the people who are actually working day in and day out to combat this problem, because this is not about press stunts. It is about the hard work of making communities safer and about holding fraudsters accountable. Each of us here who is part of this call, and I'm confident our other Democratic attorneys general colleagues, are deeply committed to protecting critical social programs that make a difference in people's lives, programs like Medicaid. In fact, we have fought tooth and nail against this administration as it has tried time after time unlawfully to cut funds for some of these critical programs. We are deeply committed to ensuring that these funds are spent appropriately and lawfully, and that those who commit fraud and cheat these programs are held accountable. We look forward to partnering with the administration or anybody else who wants to work collaboratively to fight this issue. But it's also incumbent upon us and those of you on the press who are covering this to be clear about what this administration's record is when it comes to fighting fraud. We want to work collaboratively, but you also don't get credit for putting out a fire that you started or made worse. Our administrations want to work collaboratively to address this problem. So let's do that, not just have political posturing. With that, I'm going to turn it back to my colleague, AG Rob Bonta.
Thank you. We're happy to take any questions that you might have, and Bethany and my team can lead us through that process.